Happen, right? A product you thought was a total game changer just disappears. Or some tiny startup seemingly comes from nowhere and just takes over. Why? More often than not, the answer isn't in the company itself, but in the environment it's trying to survive in.
Here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with what this marketing environment thing even is. Then we'll zoom in on the company's inner circle before zooming way out to look at the big picture forces. We'll make it real with a case study, talk about the rulebook, and then wrap it all up with the one big idea you need to remember.
So, first things first, what are we actually talking about here? The best way to think about it is like an ecosystem. Every single business, I don't care if it's a global giant or a corner store, exists inside this complex web of forces. And here's the kicker. You don't control most of them, but you absolutely have to understand them to survive.
The marketing legend Philip Kotler really hit the nail on the head. He defined it as all the stuff, the actors and the forces that are outside the marketing department, but that directly mess with its ability to actually connect with customers. The key word there is outside. This is the world you react to, not the one you create.
And to make sense of it all, we split this environment into two layers. You've got the micro environment, that's your immediate neighborhood, the players you talk to every day. Then there's the macro environment. These are the huge sweeping forces, kind of like the global climate, that affect everybody. One is close and direct, the other is big and indirect. One you can maybe influence a little, the other totally uncontrollable.
Okay, let's zoom in on that inner circle first, the micro environment. Like I said, this is your immediate neighborhood. These are the folks and firms you interact with day in and day out. And believe me, they have a direct, tangible impact on what you can and can't do.
So, who lives in this neighborhood? Well, there are 5 key players. It actually starts with you, your own company, your finances, your research team, your sales force. But you don't exist in a bubble. You depend on your suppliers. If they raise prices, you feel it immediately. Then you have your intermediaries. Think distributors, retailers, the people who get your product to the end user. They're your bridge to the market. Of course, you have your competitors, all fighting for the same customer. And finally, the most important player, the customer. A shift in their tastes can change everything overnight. You see how it's all linked? One move from any of these 5, and everyone else has to react.
All right, now let's pull the camera back. Way back. If the microenvironment is your neighborhood, the macroenvironment is the global weather system. These are the big, powerful tides and currents that affect every single business in the ocean, whether they like it or not. And there are 6 of these major forces you've got to watch. Demographics, that's not just how many people there are, but how old they are, where they live. Economic, things like income, sure, but also inflation, which quietly eats away at what people can buy. The physical world, are resources like water or oil getting scarce and expensive? Technology, this is the great disruptor, right? The smartphone changed everything. Political and legal, these are the rules of the game you're forced to play by. And finally, sociocultural. This is what society values. Is sustainability a big deal? How are family structures changing? You can't fight these forces. You just have to learn to navigate. Okay, that's a lot of theory. So how about we make it concrete? Let's take a look at a real-world example. The Indian market is a fantastic case study because it's just this perfect storm of all these micro and macro forces colliding, creating both massive challenges and unbelievable opportunities.
This quote right here says it all. India's diversity is called a boon and a bane. So it's a blessing because you've got this incredibly rich tapestry of different needs and niches. But it's a curse, or at least a huge challenge, because you can't just launch one product with one message and expect it to work everywhere. You have to adapt constantly. Now check out this key demographic fact. A lot of the focus is on India's big cities. But look at that. A staggering 77% of the population is rural. For decades, this was seen as a tough, low-income market. But now, with incomes on the rise, rural India is a powerhouse. Ignoring it is just leaving a massive opportunity on the table.
And here's a wild little quirk that comes from the political and economic environment. In India, government-owned companies have a budget they need to spend by the end of March. If they don't, they lose it. So what happens? A flurry of purchases. It's a mad dash to spend money. If you're selling to these companies, and you know this, you know exactly when to make your big sales push. It's like having an inside track.
This leads us right into a critical part of that political environment, the regulations. Now I know, the word regulations can make your eyes glaze over.
But don't think of it as red tape. Think of it as the official rulebook for the entire ecosystem. It's there to make sure the game is played fairly.
So why do we have all these rules? Well, it's not just to make life difficult for businesses. The goals are pretty important. They're there to protect us, the consumers, to stop companies from polluting our planet, to keep giant corporations from crushing the little guy, and to stop sneaky stuff like price fixing. Basically, they exist to keep the marketplace safe and fair.
And these rules directly affect marketing decisions. Take the Consumer Protection Act. It means if something goes wrong with your product, the burden of proof is on you, the seller. The MRTP Act is all about making sure you price things fairly. And some laws, like the Standards of Weights and Measures Act, get as specific as telling you exactly what size your packages can be. It shapes your product, your price, your packaging, everything.
So we've looked at everything, from our own suppliers to global cultural shifts. After all of that, what's the one thing we need to walk away with? It really boils down to a very simple and very powerful idea.
And this is it, the single most important takeaway. You can't control these forces. You're not going to stop a new technology from emerging. You can't change a cultural value overnight. So success isn't about control. It's about being vigilant. It's about constantly scanning the horizon, seeing what's coming, and being nimble enough to change your strategy on the fly.
So, I'll leave you with a question to think about. Putting on your futurist hat, what do you think is next? What's the next big thing, the next technology, the next cultural shift that's going to come along and completely rewrite the rules of the marketing game all over again? Thanks for joining this explainer. Keep your